Now, let's hop the globe over to Australia, which is responsible for quite a few of our stories over the years. The country's UFO history stretches back to 1868, when a man claimed to see an arc floating in the sky. And if our next story is any indication, it's possible another intergalactic vessel has made a trip down under. September 27th, 2021. It's about 8 p.m. in Sydney, Australia. Diana Alexa is walking home from the park with her daughter when a flash in the night sky catches her attention.
What is this?
Her video shows a strange, glowing object. No, not that wiggling lens flare, but the luminous shape beyond it. On camera, it almost looks stationary, but first-hand accounts say this thing is zipping across the sky. Diana isn't sure what to think.
At first, I'm like, maybe it's some sort of like police helicopter or something like that, you know? And then I zoomed in on it.
Look again as Diana zooms in. It's a massive, boomerang-shaped object with a bright light on its front, apparently guiding it.
And I noticed it was like some strange like triangle thing. It was like blinking. But that doesn't look like a helicopter. This is crazy.
The boomerang is actually a classic UFO type.
Typically, they're much larger than other UFOs. One of the more famous UFO cases involving a boomerang-shaped UFO occurred in the early 1980s in the Hudson Valley. For several years, there were multiple UFO sightings in the same area, and the most famous one occurred in 1983, where people reported that there was this really large V-shaped object flying over Hudson Valley. According to the local press in the time, hundreds of people witnessed this object.
This Australian boomerang was also reported by multiple witnesses, and they shouldn't hold their breath for an answer from their government.
Unfortunately, Australia made some nasty headlines in 2011 where they came out basically admitting that all their UFO reports had gone missing. And ultimately, when a government misplaces stuff, it's going to come off sounding fishy, especially when it comes to UFOs, because UFOs have such a long history of cover-up and conspiracy.
What is this?
In late 2000, Australia's military stopped accepting UFO sighting reports altogether. Witnesses are now directed to take their issues to the police. Luckily for Diana, she has our experts on her case. We begin by asking Rich Hoffman of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies if this could simply be a conventional craft.
There's no lighting whatsoever that you would find on an aircraft on this. Typically, you have navigation lights that have to be a red and green light, and you might have a white blinking light on it. And this has none of those kind of characteristics to it.
Then could this be another in a long line of boomerang UFOs?
UFOs don't use combustion engines. They're just objects that can maneuver around the sky without leaving any kind of exhaust out the back of them. Here's clearly something with an exhaust pattern.
Upon closer examination, we see what he means. This object doesn't appear to be a solid boomerang-shaped craft as much as it does a single bright point, flanked by two clouds. So we turn to video effects designer and astronomer Mark D'Antonio to ask, could this be an atmospheric phenomenon?
Certainly, this is not a weather phenomenon of any kind. Clouds don't have bright hot spots in the middle of them like this. I'm sure that there are some clouds that could look like a boomerang, but they change moment to moment. This thing remains the exact same shape pretty consistently, and it's moving too quickly. So it takes it out of the realm of logic to say it might be a cloud.
Then what does that leave us? Hoffman has an idea.
The fact that it's boomerang shaped is typical to what we see in the exhaust patterns out of the bottom of rockets.
And D'Antonio did some digging for the proof is out there and solved it.
This is actually a rocket launch from the Chinese. It was a launch of a satellite using a Long March rocket. And you're watching a plume of exhaust coming out from behind the rocket.
The launch of Xi'an-10, the classified Chinese satellite, occurred roughly 2 hours before Diana's sighting and about 5,000 miles away.
Now you might think, how could someone down in Sydney, Australia, see a rocket launch that comes out of China? Well, when you launch something up into the sky, it's going to be visible for thousands of miles. The higher up in the sky it goes, the easier it's going to be to see from a longer distance.
This is crazy.
Our verdict? This was a Chinese rocket launching a satellite into orbit, though the purpose of the satellite remains a state secret. Going off eyewitness accounts alone, we can't say for certain if rocket launches explain other boomerang UFO sightings. But if you ever see one for yourself, be sure to take the video and check for news of recent launches.